Good afternoon, everyone. Selamat sore semua. It would be really excellent if we could start this session off. First off, with everyone's cameras on so that we can interact and engage with all of you throughout this entire session, because we are up for an amazing session, ladies and gentlemen, with an amazing speaker and an amazing moderator who, as you can see, already has their camera on before me introducing them. So let's show them some respect and show them a bit of courtesy and turn on our cameras also. Ladies and gentlemen, for this speaker session, for this excellent speaker session and talk show, I might add, or presentation, we'll be doing it entirely in English, ladies and gentlemen, as a disclaimer. I'm your host and I'm your MC for today. My name is Ari Purnama, and I'm a film student from Binus University, and I'm excited to host this current free speaker session. So today's speaker session and today's presentation will be all about Wakaliwood, which is specifically a movement or a cinematic movement akin to Bollywood or Hollywood or Hollywood, but it's happening in Uganda. If you guys notice the poster, which I designed myself, I might add, we we utilized the colors of Uganda's flags: the red, the black, and the yellow. And we're here to just discuss specifically what is it that makes Wakaliwood special? What is it that we can learn from Wakaliwood? What can we learn from something that, as our speaker will elaborate on further, what can we learn from a movement that has not been touched by the mainstream? I'm very excited for this this speaker's presentation. We have an excellent speaker presentation for you. Our speaker is actually, in fact, an assistant professor of screen media at Utrecht University. He is someone who specializes in film and media studies with research interests in screen media aesthetics, production cultures, and youth mental health. And our speaker here has already held academic positions at universities and is an author of an award-winning book and a filmmaker and creator of documentaries. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Ari Purnama. Dr. Ari Purnama, I'm sorry. All right. All right, as you can see. Hi, how are you doing, Doctor?
I'm doing all right. Ryan. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I feel very honored and privileged. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you all right.
All right.
Where are you right now, sir, if I may ask?
I'm in Utrecht in the Netherlands, so it's about 30 minutes from Amsterdam. And I'm based here after, when I was giving my lecture the other time at Binus University, I was still in the US at the University of Oregon, but now I'm here in the Netherlands.
Correct. Right, excellent. What time is it there in the Netherlands? Just out of curiosity.
We're almost reaching 10:30 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
So we're 6 hours behind Indonesia. So you're all practically in the future. I'm back to the future.
All right. Without further ado, I'd love to talk more and listen, but I specifically love to listen more about what you have to say about Wakaliwood. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up today's moderator, who is expertly better at me for bringing this subject specifically. Sir Ekky Imanjaya, my own lecturer. Ladies and gentlemen, Pak Ekky, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan, can you hear me? Yeah? It's clear. Okay. Okay, it's a very beautiful day to start our discussion. I hope you will have fun. Yeah. And we are very happy and lucky to have Ari Purnama, PhD. Yeah. Is my old friend. We met in 2015, yeah, or before, yeah, in a conference in an Indonesian film workshop at SOAS University of London, organized by Dr. Ben Murta. And then I need to highlight that Kang Ari already published a book about the film language, yeah, the film language of Indonesian cinema, and it's very, very rare because not many people discuss about the film styles and film form of Indonesian cinema. And I have to highlight as well about the Kang Ari previously met itu ya. Did you meet David Broadwell in Wisconsin? Because you did
That's
your
correct.
summer course ya. Summer
That's
course
correct.
something ya.
It was a fellowship
Fellowship
at the University of Wisconsin, correct?
ya. And you met the Broadwell himself. And
That's
Kristen
correct.
Thompson. Oh, because
Yeah.
in film in film department in Binus University we it is obligatory to read at least film art from
That's
David
that's
Broadwell.
great.
That's why we are very interested and exciting to discuss about Wakaliwood's aesthetic because you said about the not formalized or something like that. Yeah, I think it's beyond the Western centric formalism or something. Probably I'm just guessing. And of course, today we have at least two courses, yeah, that I host. First of all, is from global cinema. We have African cinema as the topic, one of the topics, and the second one is film in the seminar. So that we can learn other film industry from other countries, because we, of course, we know many things about Hollywood or Hallyu, Korea, South Korean cinema, but what about other country? What about African cinema? So that's interesting and a perfect time to us to discuss. And probably, Kak Ari, I think this topic is related to your upcoming research project, right? Can you?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go ahead.
Yeah. This project is part of a larger project on the cinemas of the Global South. So I don't know if you're familiar with this term, but Global South is it's a labeling or a framing for countries that are below the equator, so to say, that used to be part of a larger constellation of let's say um, middle to low income countries, but the Global South also comprises countries like Australia or New Zealand. So this book will be one of the first books that talk about the cinemas of the Global South and moving away from the framing of third world cinema or third cinema. So it is more inclusive in a lot of ways.
Because the word third cinema or third world cinema is kind of like people like as if we underestimate the because third world cinema, right?
Yeah,
Global South is
exactly.
and
Yeah.
yeah, from the phenomenon, because there are many movement about the colonialization of film theories or the westernization of film theory. So we need to find film theories from our own regions. Yeah, is it related to the spirit of the colonization about the book?
Yeah, absolutely. And later in my talk, I will discuss two approaches that I'm using in my research, and that is production studies on the one hand, and the other is decolonizing methodology. And what I mean by decolonizing methodology is that we need to center perspectives and insights and theories and conceptualizations coming from the local cultures, and embracing ideas from local scholars that may not be represented in the English language scholarship, because of the dominant of, let's say, the US or UK or Europe paradigms. Most often these perspectives are neglected. So by decolonizing film and media studies, we want to, kind of foreground the perspectives from underrepresented countries.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. So the rundown is more or less like this. Kak Ari will have a presentation for about 30 minutes. Is it okay for?
Yeah, 30, 40 minutes, 40
Yeah,
minutes, something like that.
30 or 40 minutes with clips. Yeah, I hope there are some clips because Wakaliwood films are very fun to watch. And the second one, after that, we will I will ask the floor to if there are any comment or question, or probably they want to compare with Indonesia or Korea or something. Okay, please, the floor is yours, Ari.
Yes. Thank you so much, Bang Ekky, Imanjaya. Thank you for the introduction, and it's very nice to be here again, even though at the moment I'm delivering my lecture online, unlike the last time in person, but it's always a pleasure. So thank you for the invitation. It's an honor. Just before I start, could the participants just briefly turn on that camera so I can see who's here, just briefly, and then you can, turn off your camera again, and then when we are doing the Q&A, you can kind of unmute yourself video wise again. It's just nice to see, faces a little bit before I talk. And okay, very good, very good.
Please turn on the video for a moment, please, students. Okay, thank you.
All right. Welcome, welcome. Great, thank you. And while you're doing it, I'm, asking one important question that is important for me to get to know the prior knowledge that you have about the topic of Wakaliwood. How many of you have seen the film Who Killed Captain Alex on YouTube? Show of hands or raise emoji. Okay, I see Devanka. You've seen it? Did you like it?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
What
did you like about it?
It's
hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Yes.
The narrative, like combat. It's Bruce Yu. It's funny. That's what makes it a good film, because I like comedies, funny things. It's
Yeah.
really it was really entertaining that I
Right, very
rewatched it.
entertaining. Exactly.
That
So
I
what you're
the
referring to is the commentaries coming from what they call the video jockey. That is very
yes,
common in Uganda. So
the action is good. The voiceover was hilarious and good as well.
I'm glad you really appreciate it. Is it Devanka or Dimas?
Devan. Just call me
Devan.
Devan.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. So this is good. And for those of you who haven't, I hope, by the end of this lecture, you are triggered to watch Who Killed Captain Alex and more films from Wakaliwood. So I'm going to start my lecture. Can you see all my slides? Yes? All right, perfect. So let me start by showing you a portion of the trailer for the documentary Once Upon a Time in Wakaliwood. Let's have a look.
Testing microphone 1 2. Coming at you live from Africa. Welcome to Uganda. Okay, action. This is the home of the best action movies. We call it Wakaliwood.
If we need a gun, we weld it. Anything like a jib, camera stand. If you don't have one, we make it.
We wanted the white man in the movie, and we didn't know where to get the white man. And he just came in time.
I come from New York City because I see your movies.
All right. So that trailer for the documentary sums up what I'll be talking about in this lecture today, and that is about Wakaliwood. And the title of my lecture is Leveraging the Art of Not Being Formalized, What We Can Learn from Uganda's Wakaliwood Film Production Culture. So I will unpack some of these ideas later in my talk, but I hope by the end of the lecture, you will be able to take away a few things. First of all, is that you'll be able to recognize the core elements of Wakaliwood's production culture, including its collectivist practices, low-tech DIY creativity, and autonomy in filmmaking. So I will explain what I mean by all of these concepts. And I hope you will understand concepts like Gotong Royong, which is very, very familiar to us in Indonesia. And I hope you are also familiar with this. And decolonizing approaches to help explain Wakaliwood's alternative model and its resistance to Hollywood's standardized production norms. And then I hope you will appreciate the value of creativity under constraints, meaning how you can be creative even if you don't have a lot of resources, and how Wakaliwood demonstrate that technology matters, yes, but it's the ideas and the resourcefulness and authenticity that matter even more. And lastly, I hope you'll be able to reflect and discuss how this insights can inspire film studies and film production communities to rethink collaboration, storytelling, and what counts as professional filmmaking. What does it mean to be a professional filmmaking, and can we still really maintain the opposition between professional and amateur filmmaking? So these are the key learning outcomes that I hope you'll gather at the end of my lecture. Okay, so if you have not seen Who Killed Captain Alex, I encourage you to go to YouTube and search Who Killed Captain Alex. You will find this video with, the last time I checked this morning, the video has been viewed 10 million times now with the main title, Who Killed Captain Alex, Uganda's First Action Movie. You will also find that this movie is published by Official Wakaliwood, a film production company known as Ramon Film Production. And I really love this signage that they put on the street, because it reminds me a lot of the the signages that we find in many cities across Indonesia, whether it's pasang AC or service AC signages, shablon, and all kinds of things. So there are a lot of similarities in Indonesia in a lot of ways. And Ramon Film Production was founded by Isaac Nabwana in Wakaliga, in the city of Kampala, Uganda. So where is Wakaliga? Wakaliga is a low-income neighborhood located in Rubaga Division on the western side of Kampala, Uganda's capital city. It is an area with intermittent electricity, meaning electricity is unstable, so it goes on and off. It has modest housing and high community interdependence. It's densely populated. It's a working class area characterized by informal housing, lively street life, and small scale economic activity. So some people call this a slum, and some people call this an urban village, depending on the framing that you have. But it is in this environment that Wakaliwood emerges organically, using whatever resources that were available. So they use recycled computer parts, home-built cameras, improvised props, green screens made from, cloth, and dozens of neighborhood volunteers. So these are truly the DIY type of resources for filmmaking that they have. Now, Uganda, in terms of film and cinema going history, cinema has arrived in Uganda in the colonial era, so in the 1940s and 1960s during the British colonial time. But later, during the regime of Idi Amin, because of a lot of conflicts that happened in the country, many formal cinemas or bioscopes deteriorated, so they were shut down. It came only later in the late 1980s and 1990s that film-going culture re-emerged. And it reemerged within this phenomenon called the video halls. So what are the video halls? I have a short clip that demonstrates what the video hall is. What's important also to notice is that in this video hall setting, you will also find the VJs, the video jockeys that provide commentaries, but also narrate the films and tell jokes and all kinds of things that makes cinema going or film going experience truly otherworldly. So let's have a look.
A movie is about to start in this video hall. American-made, but voiced in Kampala, in the most common language, Luganda.
We are going to school, yes. We know English, yes. It's a challenge for many people to understand the English that we see in the movies.
A significant percentage of Ugandans cannot read or write, and understanding English films would be a hard task. But VJs or video jockeys are making it easy by translating, interpreting, and simplifying films for moviegoers. Armed with a microphone, amplifier, a mixer, and DVD recorder, Mugwanya does his commentary in a makeshift studio. Some moviegoers say it's not just the language barrier which brings them here, but also the expense of going to a proper cinema.
Actually, to watch translated movies, it's not that I don't understand English or they're in a language that I can't understand, but movies are there. They are somehow expensive than these of Uganda or my local place.
Watching a film here costs less than $1, while a movie cinema in upscale Kampala will charge about $7 a film. And the practice of interpreting films is growing and expanding to local television stations. Michael Baleke, CCTV, Kampala, Uganda.
So it's fascinating, right? You have this setup, which is not very fancy, but it really brings the community together. But the VJs, the video jockeys, are oftentimes the stars of this film going experience. People flock to see and hear the VJs more so than they more so than the films themselves. So that's very interesting. So this video hall culture and the VJ performance directly influence Wakaliwood style. The humor, the pacing, and the community-driven approach to filmmaking. So you have to understand the environment from which Wakaliwood emerges, because it doesn't exist in vacuum. So Nabwana, the founder of Ramon Film Productions, is a huge film fan. In particular, is a huge martial arts and action film fans, whether it's Hong Kong films or Hollywood or in different parts of the world. He always gravitates to action films. So let's have a quick look at this clip from Vice that interviews him, and we also see him, in action shooting. You could really sense his passion for filmmaking, in particular for action filmmakings more broadly. Here's a short clip that takes us to the beginning of Wakaliwood, during the time that he and his wife started the Ramon Film Productions. And I want to show this to you because it is highly inspiring, at least to me as a filmmaker as well, how he has vision about turning his village, his slum, into a film industry, basically.
This is Ramon Film Productions office, and this is the studio, and the other side serves as my home. So this side is my home, this is my studio, and then this is my wife Harriet, my son Newton Isaac, my daughter, Rachel, another daughter. Hey, Gitty. This is Gitty. This is Gitty. Well, I want to turn this area into a film industry area, industrial area. That's why I call it Wakaliwood. It's called because the area is called Wakariga.
So, since the trailer for Who Killed Captain Alex appeared on YouTube in 2010 and the entire movie became available to watch for free in 2015, this film catapulted Nabwana and Ramon film production into global popularity among action film fans. So on their website, you can find, world tour dates for screenings of Wakaliwood films outside of Uganda. You have fan videos. They even have fan videos from Indonesia. Apparently, there are Wakaliwood film fans in Indonesia, and you will find a scrapbook and all kinds of goodies that really try to engage Wakaliwood fans all over the world, making them more accessible than, say, a Hollywood film production company. One of their biggest fans is this guy from Canada who actually watched Who Killed Captain Alex and then got inspired, and he flew to Uganda to become the Canadian Rambo. So he's making a career out of this, later on. What's striking to me is that and highly relevant to mention here is that the film was put together by the residents of the Wakaliga community. If you look at the credit titles here at the end of the film, even though Nabwana, he is the founder of Ramon Film Productions, behind the scene, he actually received help and support from the villagers that include his immediate and extended family members, his cousins, aunties, uncles, neighbors, friends, a martial arts practitioner, and a craft person who built filmmaking gears and props for the film. So we can say that, like the saying, it literally takes a village to raise a child. In a Wakaliwood context, it literally takes a film. It literally takes a village to make a film in Wakaliwood, because it is true. So to give you a bit more, let's say, ideas about what kinds of films they make, I have another short clip that I think best illustrates what Wakaliwood is. I love that while he's shooting a film, there's a guy selling hats, walking around in a village. So it's so informal, it's so organic. But why do we need to study Wakaliwood? Why do we need to, try to be more attentive to production cultures in the global South? Well, there are a couple of reasons, I argue. First of all is that even though Who Killed Captain Alex was a successful film and has been received euphorically, the reception, however, in the West at least, tends to focus on how low the budget is. But the director in the film's commentary track, Nabwana, admits that he doesn't even remember the exact number of the film's budget. So it doesn't really matter, whether the budget is low or not. The most important is that the films speak to a lot of people internationally. As an example, there's been a rumor about whether there's going to be a sequel to Who Killed Captain Alex 2. And in this clip, we are going to see British film fans reacting to this rumor and then finding themselves to be disappointed, because apparently the sequel to Who Killed Captain Alex 1 has been lost because of technical reason.
There's Who Killed Captain Alex 2 in production. It's been in production since 2022.
Did you see on the Wikipedia page that the direct sequel that he made? He actually made it, and there was a power surge, and it deleted it from his hard drive.
Oh, Lauren, why? Why would you tell me these sad things? I'm not crying. I'm not getting that emotional, but it is harrowing to just lose stuff.
We had a power surge recently as well, so
imagine if you lost your Fortnite Battle Pass on that power surge, Jeff.
So it is said because of the unreliable electricity that they have in Wakaliwood, so things like this could happen, you know. So reception is one thing. On top of that, despite the torrent of glowing reviews and media attention that Wakaliwood has been receiving, there's this underlying premise that the films they make are inherently bad but enjoyable, thus embodying the cliche, it's so bad it's good quality, right? Furthermore, I pick up in this popular publications the implied suggestion that despite Wakaliwood films' amateurish looks and poorly written plot development, these films, in particular Who Killed Captain Alex, are genuinely reflections of the third world and impoverished countries' approach to filmmaking, and therefore they offer a singular vision and experience. Mubi, the global streaming platform, writes the following in their notes about Wakaliwood. Isaac Nabuana's micro-budget action nerds may lack Hollywood polish, but they express cultural specificity. So my take on this reviews is one of suspicion. It suggests that the lack of Hollywood polish is a deficiency that's compensated by extra filmic components such as communalism and cultural specificity. But I take issues with this line of thinking because it is gravely problematic to think of Wakaliwood and its films through the simplistic lens of evaluative judgment, good versus bad, which only perpetuates the trappings of binarity and sustains the hegemony of Western film culture in discussing films from the global South, whether it's from Africa or from Southeast Asia. So I suggest that we look at Wakaliwood films beyond what we see on screen. We need to look into their ways of working and their approaches to production that, in my view, provides insights into their contribution to global cinema and screen media production culture. So, as I mentioned earlier in the introduction, this presentation is part of a larger project on global South cinema studies. It's a chapter that will be published in the book called Handbook of Cinema in the Global South, hopefully coming out next year. And my intention with this chapter is to advance our understanding of grassroots filmmaking practices in resource-limited contexts and challenge Western-centric perspectives on film production, primarily shaped by Hollywood's production regime, which is currently missing in the academic scholarship on community filmmaking. On top of that, I would also want to showcase the South-South exchange of conceptual ideas, namely the interaction between Asia and Africa when it comes to perspectives and epistemic thinking, and which can be traced to the 1955 Asian African Conference in Bandung, Indonesia, that you are familiar with. So by doing so, you know, I hope to advance this decolonizing methodology, as I said in the beginning, challenging prevailing Western-centric perspectives and promoting a comprehensive and diverse study of film and audiovisual culture in the global South. And Wakaliwood, I argue, serves as a powerful example that challenges established notions and norms that dictate how film production must be enacted, and thus contributes to a more inclusive understanding of film production culture. So here are the key points that I want to convince you of. The couple of key lessons is that I argue that while Wakaliwood's film production method may be considered unprofessional and amateuristic or capricious when judged by Hollywood's procedural standards, it offers a refreshing and innovative alternative model of film production culture underpinned and supported by the principle of Gotong Royong, characterized by the following traits: an emphasis in collectivism, low-tech DIY creative problem solving, and autonomy of practice. I further argue that Wakaliwood's Gotong Royong approach to filmmaking actually paralleled the DIY ethos of cultural production in DIY punk communities that is also very prevalent in the global South, which similarly resists the dominance and the hegemony of corporate capitalism. So in this context, Wakaliwood's filmmaking practice served as a form of resistance to Hollywood's production regime that is hyper-mechanized and everything's done for maximized efficiency. In terms of approach, as I mentioned earlier, I combined production studies with decolonizing methodology. If you're not familiar with production study is a research approach. It's a research paradigm that examines not only the films itself, but also looks into what happens behind the screen, behind the camera, behind the scene. So we turn our focus to, let's say, the workers, the workplaces, and discourses involved in screen production. So if you're interested in the study of filmmaking, production study is the, I would say, a very interesting approach for you. And decolonizing methodology, as I mentioned earlier, is a project that challenges and seeks to transform dominant paradigms by centering indigenous perspectives, knowledge systems, and cultural practices. So in other words, I intend to make relevant ideas, concepts, practices, and thoughts about art and culture produced by local scholars, artists, critics living in the global South. Okay, now we're moving on into the, let's say, the main course of our lecture today. So I stated in the beginning that Wakaliwood's Gotong Royong film production method is a form of resistance and characterized by 3 traits. First one is an emphasis in collectivism. Wakaliwood's production method exemplifies a commitment to collectivism, a value closely aligned with the principle of Gotong Royong, particularly in the form of, as we know, kerja bakti. And Wakaliwood filmmaking is not an individual endeavor, but a communal activity in which every member of the community, from actors to crew members, contributes to the success of the project. So rather than applying a strict hierarchy of production roles and specification of duties practiced in Hollywood with its division between above-the-line roles or below-the-line roles, Wakaliwood applies a fluid system where production crew can take on multiple roles depending on what's needed during production. So, for example, Bisaso Dauda, who is an actor, and he's acted in several Wakaliwood films, including Who Killed Captain Alex. But he's also in charge of props making, as well as, assembling grip equipment, such as the jib or the crane. And he also trains young actors to play in Wakaliwood films. Harriet Nabwana, who is the wife of Isaac Nabwana, often acts as a producer, but she also manages the sale of Ramon Film Productions DVDs and also does the bookkeeping. Sarunya Ernest Sarunya, who is primarily an actor, is an acting coach and martial arts trainer, simultaneously with Kiza Manisuru Senjeba, who is a professional Kung Fu practitioner, but also a trainer and actor. So almost all of them play multiple roles. But what's interesting here is that all crew members engage in the marketing activities and the sales of their films simultaneously, whether at the markets in Kampala or the adjacent village. So here's a clip that shows that.
For us here in Uganda, we do make movies and we sell them ourselves. The producers are the ones who are selling movies to the people because they are not ready distributors.
Semusu. Semusu. Nazanye bungi. Obulala bunonye wonna wogula film. Bagambe bakuwe ebina Uganda byokka. Tutandika okuwagira bannange. Biri bannaye mwe bali kuwagira. Tweyazanye obuwagisi.
Ndugu, I'm asking you, how good is it?
It's good.
No, how good? Otherwise, I would have asked you how bad.
Even I can't say because it's my best movie.
All right, you'll never see Timothée Chalamet or Reza Rahadian selling DVDs at the market, but in Wakaliwood, everyone contributes to that. Okay, second trait is low-tech DIY creative problem solving. So Wakaliwood production method relies heavily on DIY low-tech rather than prefabricated high-tech support. In other words, they routinely build their filmmaking tools, whether grip equipment or props, from materials they can find on site, rather than buying ready-made equipment from global film equipment manufacturer. For visual effects, Buana relies on a basic compositing technique that he applies to his film scenes in Adobe Premiere in his self-made PC running on Windows XP. Can you imagine that? So in this documentary, he shows how he creates the explosion of flipping over a car for a chase scene in his movie using a model car instead of shooting the scene with actual cars.
It's not yet there, but I was just making an experiment whether I can make the car turn, things of that kind. It's a chroma key. I put this on a chroma key and then I compose it with the background. The real car is there, and then I got a model of that same car, so that I'm trying to make it turn with somebody inside it. I learn by myself. I just think of something and then I do it. Oh, it's off, and that's because of power. That is the big problem we are having. For us, we are using electricity because you cannot edit without electricity. You cannot shoot because you have to charge the batteries for the camera. So it's like that. Then that's why I decided to get an inverter so that I charge the battery, so that at night at least I have some extra 2 hours of working.
So it's a dicey situation where you rely on pretty much an unreliable electricity. You can imagine as a filmmaker how scary that is if you don't have any, backup system where you can pretty much store your film files and a copy of your Adobe Premiere edited film. So it's a scary thing, but he manages to do it somehow, one way or another. The third and last characteristic is autonomy of practice. And the last, but certainly not least, defining feature of Wakaliwood's Gotong Royong approach to film production. So, okay, first of all, in Hollywood, and I'm sure many of you who are studying film production know that there are certain protocols and certain techniques that you use in order to make film shooting more efficient. And one of the techniques that is very prominent is the coverage method. The coverage technique is a key technique that Hollywood filmmakers often rely on to conform to this continuity system during film production. Basically, it is a technique whereby a scene is covered from multiple angles using various dimension of shot scales, even if the scene contains a single action. So a coverage is a textbook recipe that is practiced in Hollywood and taught in film schools and film production handbooks as the go-to tool for filming a scene. Now, on the interlocking relationship between the coverage technique and the continuity system, Rabiger and Hurbi Sherrier in their handbook for film directing remark, shooting multiple angles of the same action called coverage allows the storyteller a high degree of control over the dramatic shape, POV rhythms, and an emphasis of a scene. Now, here's a short clip that explains what coverage is if you're not familiar with it yet.
Before diving into the mechanics of shooting a scene with one camera, it's important to understand the concept of coverage. To conventionally edit a scene together, you need multiple angles and shot sizes to work with. Therefore, most filmmakers rely on what we call getting coverage. This refers to the process of filming a master shot, which records the entire action and dialogue in the scene, and then shooting a variety of other takes from different angles, sometimes in certain portions. This way a scene is covered from multiple angles, and can be cut together using bits and pieces from a collection of shots, a wide shot, a medium shot, and a close-up. A script supervisor is hired in order to ensure each shot matches up correctly with the others, without any mistakes or lapses in continuity, which may disrupt the illusion. While this method is the most common, there are other ways to cover scenes, such as in a single long take. However, shooting in a single take leaves the editor no way to alter the pacing of the scene, cut around mistakes, or insert magical pieces of performance. Shooting a single take requires perfection from beginning to end, which is difficult due to all the moving pieces that need to fall into place, such as blocking, performance, camera movement, and focus.
So that's the coverage technique. And the coverage technique is part of the Hollywood paradigm of film production, a mannerism that supports what I call the over-complexification of film shooting embodied by the block, light, rehearse, shoot protocol.
I'm telling you. We just finished filming our standard coverage. Now it's time for the inserts. I'm gonna go to a tighter lens. What's interesting here is we shot the scene wide, then we went in for the coverage. Now we're doing the inserts. What if we did the inserts first? That would be stupid, right? You wanna get usable footage in case it all goes to crap, the fire alarm goes off and everyone has to run out of the room. At least you got something, right? That's why you go wide, medium, and then tights. So these are not as important. I could cut the scene without these inserts, but they're gonna make the scene that much better. Camera rolling. We're finally done filming. So what we did is we blocked, we lit, we rehearsed, we tweaked, and we shot the darn thing. 5 steps that Hollywood does. Now.
So, 5 steps that Hollywood does. Oh, someone's have their audio on. Yes, thank you. So, as you have noticed so far, you know, the way of film shoot has become so complex. It's unnecessarily complex, I would say. All kinds of protocols involved. And not everyone is actually happy with the coverage method. It's not everyone is a proponent of the coverage method. So, for example, Jean-Pierre Gouens, in his film production theory book, decries the over-reliance of contemporary Hollywood filmmaking on coverage and exposes the limitation of this technique. He writes, and here I quote, "Coverage is also a way of protecting yourself in case something goes wrong with the acting dynamics, the continuity of a scene, or the safekeeping of the film itself as it travels in the camera and is manipulated in the lab." Andre Tekine is quick to see the danger in this. Once you start covering for safety, you will never stop. There will be a lot of pressure to shoot close-up of actors' faces, even though you know you will never use them or do a second take, albeit the first one was perfectly good. Now, considering the downsides of the coverage method, Gouens concludes boldly that coverage is a concern of management rather than a useful creative requirement. So in Wakaliwood, Nabuana, when shooting a fight sequence for an upcoming film called Eaten Alive, he doesn't apply the coverage method. In fact, he eschews, he avoids everything according to a Hollywood way of doing. Instead, he applies his conceptual idea of how the scene will unfold in the final cut. He also doesn't use the block light shoot procedure typical of Hollywood on-set protocols or any of the formalized film production methods taught in film schools, where the director and actors block the scene first, then the DOP and her lighting crew light the set and actors, and then they'll rehearse the scene with the actor before shooting. Instead, Nabuana directs and operates the camera himself on the fly without following the on-the-set protocols required in professional film production settings, such as the AD or the assistant director calling the take, and then a continuity person checking that the shots required by the script are covered, a DOP with her camera department, including a first assistant camera or AC, a second AC, a grip, gaffer, a sound person, and other key crew members going over everything before the camera rolls. But what's even more phenomenal is how Nabuana captures the scene based on what he believes is needed to tell the story of the scene through a series of shots. I call his approach conceptualized spontaneity because it works well for him.
How is that? Action.
Ndi mukazi munaku nze taata nze maama nze jjajja nze ssenga katonda wange nze ndabye.
So those are the three key traits of the Gotong Royong approach to film production in Wakaliwood. Now we're reaching towards the end of my lecture, and I want to ask the bigger question, so what? Knowing all of this, well, the autonomy exercised by Wakaliwood is crucial in preserving local practices and ensuring that the films produced resonate with the community. This autonomy allows Wakaliwood filmmakers to challenge dominant, standardized perspectives on film production method and offer alternative perspectives that reflect the realities of life in Uganda, much as Gotong Royong empowers communities to resist external pressures and maintains their cultural integrity. However, there are also the risks involved in this Gotong Royong approach to film production, and I think it's important to mention them as well because not everything is, of course, positive and flowery. The first risk is that it can be very precarious, meaning that there's unstable revenue of income, irregular access to equipment, and reliance on unpaid or underpaid labor, which makes it unsustainable. Creative passion often substitutes for financial security, which again can limit long-term sustainability. Second risk is co-optation. Grassroots practices can be absorbed, romanticized, or exploited by global media industries that will really, suck the authenticity and organicity of the film production culture like Wakaliwood out. Lastly, the organic authenticity of Wakaliwood's method risk being commodified or framed as a global spectacle of poverty or poverty porn, as it's known in the academic world. Be that as it may, I argue that these risks do not invalidate the Gotong Royong model and the conceptualized spontaneity approach to film production. They highlight essential tensions when creativity emerges under structural constraints. If anything, they underscore what Wakaliwood's achievements are, which are remarkable, resilient, and worthy of serious attention. So to conclude, I will offer something that to me is mind-blowing when I learn about this, and that is the concept of zomia. I don't know how many of you know, but in mainland Southeast Asia and Southwest China, There's a region with the size of Europe that traverses 9 countries, including Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, located 300 meters above sea level, where 100 million minority peoples of ethnic and linguistic diversity live. These uphill lands that reside on the periphery of those 9 states are known as Zomia. In The Art of Not Being Governed, James C. Scott argues that, contrary to the conventional views that characterize these upland communities as raw or primitive or barbarian, these peoples of Zomia are actually those who refuse to be incorporated into formalized states. In fact, they are runaway, fugitive communities who have, over the course of 2 millennia, have been fleeing the oppression of state-making projects in the valleys. So they escape slavery, they escape conscription, taxes, epidemics, and warfare. So Scott argues that virtually everything about these people's livelihoods, social organization ideologies, and even their largely oral cultures can be read as strategic positionings designed to keep the state at arm's length. So perhaps we can consider Wakaliwood as an artistic Zomia, rather than considering Wakaliwood merely as a novelty act characterized by crude aesthetic and unprofessional filmmaking practices. Wakaliwood practitioners are DIY creative strategists who have built screen media production industry within a context of limited resources, all while resisting the formalization and over-complexification of filmmaking procedures that Hollywood imposes on cinema industry worldwide. In doing so, Wakaliwood contributes to the broader movement to decolonize film production method. And that was my lecture. Thanks ever so much. And if you would like to reach out to me, this is my email, and there's also my website there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kak Ari ini. Because you not only you show the importance of Wakaliwood movies, which is because it's when we look at glance, it's a trashy, right? Trashy movie, or it's like, what is this? But if we go deeper beyond the mainstream formalism, we have so many interesting things to find out. Yeah, for example, like Gotong Royong or collectivism, and then you also connect with Bandung Conference, which is a very trending right now because Bunga Siagian just discovered her dad's movies called Turang, yeah, and then they see the Bunga Siagian started to connect Bandung Conference with ASEAN, Africa, and the colonialization. So it's like it's connected, all of your research, Bunga research, and then I cannot help it to compare with my own research because recently I just submitted for a book chapter. It's quite similar. One of the filmmakers that I mentioned is about Kolong Cinema, or the bad movies movement, Kolong Cinema, and then Ulingiwood is from Jember, and then Mercusuar Production is like it's like low budget movies showing the non-mainstream aesthetics. But the thing is, they are not becoming global yet, yeah, because I think because they are still exploring the local one, and they don't have much attempt to go to international, except for Sigit. Some of his short films are in Trauma Maps, yeah, from Trauma. It's different with what I researched previously about films from the 80s, yeah, as you already know, because I showed the Traumatized, remember in 2013. Yeah, and then the good thing about your research, it is very important for the students that you not only show the importance of Wakaliwood cinema, but also the methods, yeah, the methodology. And this is very important to us to ourselves, to myself, yeah, to yourself, about why not, so what, yeah, the so what, the so what question is very, very important, yeah, that, and for, particularly for the students, yeah, where doing the, when doing the thesis, yeah. My thesis is about this and that. So what? Ask for yourself.
So what? Yeah.
So what? This is
what is the relevance?
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we need to be critical to ourselves, yeah, before. Okay, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I had no idea before about the Gotong Royong can be formulated into a methodology. It's very nice. Gotong Royong is collectivism, yeah, mutual cooperation or something like that. Yeah, it's
Mutual
very, very difficult.
cooperation, yeah. Mutual aid, yeah.
Mutual aid, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I will ask the audience whether you have any questions or comments. Yeah. Comment is okay, yeah, if you have any comments about, because the global cinema course we already watched the Who Killed Captain Alex, yeah. We have like about 90 students, yeah. So probably your perspective already changed, when it was the Captain Alex again with this new perspective, yeah, with the new approach, yeah. Okay.
So did you screen Who Killed Captain Alex, or did they have to watch on their own?
We screen. They need.
Oh, wow.
I forced them to watch. Yeah, and I forced them to watch it. But I think it's a fun, yeah. It's a fun movie, particularly the VJ, because nobody else in the entire world had any idea to do the comments, yeah, the comments. on films, because probably in video games we already the commentators are very, very, it's common in video games, yeah, but not in film.
And in cinema history, as you know, the tradition of giving commentaries, we can trace it back to the silent era, right? In Europe and in the US, usually during the silent film era, they had what they called presentators that also provide commentaries live. And in Japan, they actually had the profession named benshi that also provided interpretations of the film, and sometimes they also played the voice of the actors in the film. So there's precedence in cinema history, but this form of VJing that we see in Uganda and Wakaliwood, that's something different, because it's embedded into the film itself, right? I mean, if you watch the film in Uganda, yes, you get to experience it live in this video halls, but for us who are not in Uganda, we experience it as part of the film's fabric, which makes it very otherworldly, as I say.
Yeah. Okay, any question or comments? Any question or comment about the presentation or Wakaliwood in general? Yeah, because some of you already watched the movie. Usually Ryan always has questions. Ryan, you can start if you want to.
This feels a bit inappropriate considering I'm also the MC, but yeah, I've been dying to ask. Well, first of all, I just want to say to people in this Zoom call, if you'd like to ask any questions, you can also send it through the Zoom chat. All right, for my question, first of all, thank you so much for that amazing presentation. Honestly, I do feel like we need to collectively move towards decolonizing not just film, but film studies specifically. And in terms of academia, I do...
Here.
Yes, here. I think a lot of it has been westernized lately, and like there's a growing de-westernization, even in topics of the global south, in terms of where we are in third world cinema and everything. And I just feel really enlightened by your presentation. So allow me to first express my admiration for that.
Thank you.
The burning question that I have right now is, honestly, is there a chance that Wakaliwood that you might already elaborated on, but is there a chance that Wakaliwood Because as it stands, filmmaking is an economical enterprise and anything. Is there a model of sustainability for Wakaliwood that we can model for Indonesian films or for other exploitation movies or movies that are, third world movies? Is there a model that you see in Wakaliwood that allows them to just continue to make these movies, or just to be able to make these movies into Wakaliwood that we can take example for ourselves?
Yes. Yeah, that's a really good question, Ryan. I appreciate it. Is there a model that Indonesia can learn? There's not just one model, I would say, but there's a series of model that, that not only for the Indonesian context, but let's say for Southeast Asian context more broadly. And this model, I think, can be summed up in the following terms, meaning that you want to start bottom up, right? You want to start bottom up by really looking into what can your culture offer? What can your environment offer? What can your, let's say, the specificities of your community offer in terms of film and audiovisual storytelling? So rather than doing it top down, where you have a group of people who have money and make film for the sake of really getting profits, what I see from Wakaliwood with this bottom-up approach is that, you have passion for film and you're inspired by a lot of films globally, but you don't copy them, one-to-one. Instead, you start from looking into what can we offer here. And if you notice the interview with Isaac Nabwana in one of the clips that I showed, is that he says, I really want to combine, Chinese Kung Fu martial arts with Ugandan culture. So there's that localities that I think is very important. So start from there, I would say, and be honest in terms of, okay, we want to tell stories, but for whom? I think what's so honest about Wakaliwood is that they really want to tell the stories primarily just for their own community first, before they, before they turn to global viewers, or because they didn't have any ambition, to become this global sensation, really. If you trace it back to Nabwana's early motivation, he was a bricklayer. You can imagine, he was a bricklayer for many years, but he was very passionate about film, and I think he bought a simple camera to make wedding videos as a start, and then music videos, and then later on, he decided to make one film before Who Killed Captain Alex. That film is lost, so that's very unfortunate. But because of this lack of ambition to become like a global sensation, they became much more honest with what they made, meaning that, they want to tell stories for their own communities first. So I think, yeah, a bottom-up approach, and also honesty in terms of, who do you want to reach, right? And I think Indonesian cinema in a contemporary time moving towards, arguably moving towards that local, regional richness, which I very welcome. You have now films or short films, let's say, made in Sulawesi, in Makassar, and in Jember, in Purbalingga, using local languages, and I think that's a really good movement, because for a long time, as you know, Indonesian cinema has always been very Bahasa Indonesia centric, very Jakarta centric, and now we're seeing more and more diversity in it, and I think that's good.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Ryan, for the question. Any other question or comment about the movie or about Wakaliwood in general? Or I have a question here for Kak Ari. After Who Killed Captain Alex, do you have any film recommendation produced in Wakaliwood, and how to access are there any Wakaliwood films in the YouTube or any platform?
Yes, absolutely. So on YouTube, you can find other films beside Who Killed Captain Alex, the film that I really enjoyed watching. And oftentimes I turn on the director's commentary track because I love learning, the behind the scenes phenomenon. But if you don't want to listen to the commentary track, you can just simply watch the film with the VJ. So let me put it in the chat here.
Okay.
We have one question here from Fania, but private message to me.
Okay.
Bad Black. So I
Okay.
really
Thank you.
enjoyed this one. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. By the way, I think I've already watched the commentary. It's really funny too. It's like, I think they have a Joker to commentate on the movie itself, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Correct.
It was a while. All right. So Fania asks, for a film academic, specifically studying decolonization in film studies, where should one start? That's
Yes.
the question. Thank you, Fania, for the question.
Sure. Thank you so much. That's a very significant question. Where should one start? So there are a couple of ways. First of all, is that you researching films by. Okay, so let me clarify one thing first. Decolonizing doesn't mean that you should throw away Western perspectives, right? Because Western perspectives, Western ideas, Western theories also can be useful to us. So it doesn't mean that we throw one thing away and then replace it with another. I think what decolonizing methodology or decolonizing perspective brings is really to making the local indigenous perspectives matter as an equivalent to the Western perspective, or even much more central, right? So we can start by, for instance, suppose that you are writing your thesis about horror films, right? Whether it's Indonesian horror films or Southeast Asian horror films. So I would start with, first of all, looking into writings from the local theories first, and dig deeper into that. I know that a lot of writings have been done in the local language, for instance, instead of English. So look into that first, and then watch the films very, very closely, aesthetically and culturally as well. And then, when you use a theory, yes, you can use a Western theory, but you should be critical about the Western theory as well, right? So rather than just adopting it blindly in a wholesale way, we can be critical and select and filter those out, right? So in terms of literature, there are a couple of books that I think could be very helpful for you when if you want to do a lot more research into decolonizing film studies. So there's a colleague of mine at the university, South Bank University in London. He's a cinematographer, and he published this article called Decolonizing Cinematography. Let me put that in the chat. So his method is very interesting because he argues that in his article, cinematography, whether it's lighting or a camera movement, lighting in particular, has actually been developed to only showcase skin tones of white people, right? White Caucasian people. And this is actually influenced by Western paintings, the European painting. But what about Asian faces? Or what about, African faces? And so in this article, he actually did some experiments with his students at London South Bank University, using different kinds of lighting setups, to really portray Asian faces and Asian skin tones in a much more, let's say, accurate way or flattering way. And also with African skin tones, using Black actors to try to experiment with the, lighting ratios and whatnot, with the idea that, we can develop methods to decolonize cinematography and to decolonize lighting this way. So I think this is a good example of how one could decolonize, film studies.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question, Tanya.
Fanya, thank you, Fanya, for the question. Fanya is also a film studies student who's looking to study more academically and stuff.
Oh, fantastic! So there should be a conference organized by students, right, Mr. Ekky?
Yeah, some universities have their own conferences, and one of the sections are for students, for student panel or something, including
That's
in
great,
Binus,
yeah.
in Binus, yeah.
That's fantastic, yeah. Like a symposium or something, yeah.
Yeah, and this is interesting, yeah, because you talk about how to deconstruct colonial gaze from with the formalism, yeah, like a camera or probably editing or and lighting. This is something that we need to explore more, because we need to find our own film theory, something like that, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So in another chapter I talked about at the Coffee Cafein conference, I talked about how, for instance, the concept and the theory of rasa, rasa in the Indonesian language means flavor or sensation, or the act of sensing something, merasakan or perasaan. In Indian aesthetics or in Indian classical arts, the theory of rasa has been very much used to study theater, for instance, to study Indian classical music as well. In Indonesia, the theory of rasa or roso in the Japanese context has been applied mostly in the context of gamelan music. So using that very local way of conceptualizing and theorizing, affect or emotion, I use that to study film, right? The rasa or the atmosphere of, let's say, Indonesian horror film or Indonesian comedy. So I'm telling you all this to showcase that, there's a way for you to decolonize film studies by looking into what local theories have to offer, even if they're not written in the English language,
And even if the theories are not directly linked to film studies or to
exactly,
like a Primadi, a lecturer from ITB already discussed about the bahasa rupa. It's also interesting. And then my colleague Gopalan Mulik also already wrote about rasa in Indian cinema. I think that's really interesting, because you already started using the term, like Gotong Royong. The thing is, we need to find a very specific Indonesian or Japanese or Sundanese that are very difficult to translate into English. So because it's so rich with the meaning, because that's like Jayus.
Yeah, I'm sure there.
Jayus is how you in English. How you do you translate in English? Jayus is not only bad taste or something. Okay.
Yeah, and also the connection between Asia and Africa, as I mentioned in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So, for instance, there's a concept of Ubuntu in Africa, which is also, so, I think we could explore this connection between Asia and Africa even more.
Yeah.
Because there's so many similarity and overlapping cultural connections, but also philosophical connections as well.
Yeah. Okay,
All right.
I think that's the end of our discussion. And thank you very much, Dr. Ari Purnama. Give a big applause with the reaction.
Thank you.
Emotion. I will do the rocket one. Okay. Okay, thank you. And
Thank you.
hopefully,
Appreciate it.
if you are around Indonesia, around Jakarta, we can
Yes.
keep in touch, and probably you can have an on-site lecture, like we did last year.
That would be great.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. I plan to go to Indonesia next year, so I'll make sure to drop by Binus.
Thank you very much, and I give it back to Ryan as the MC. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you so much for that excellent presentation and speaker session and Q&A. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for Q&A and for presentation. So once again, thank you so much, Sir Ari, for coming here today and for enlightening us with Wakaliwood and with decolonization of film studies and everything that we can learn from Wakaliwood.